I think both of them need to get together and have a conversation about how to fix the contentious issues they have. One was the 2023 Budget Act that was passed in Parliament. The second one is reforms to the IEBC. And then the other elements of the 1.5% housing tax, I think that's a part of another problem. And then the commissioners who were removed from the IEBC.
In the longer term, what are the economic implications of these protests for Kenya?
Every day the country is losing about 30 million US dollars just in the metro Nairobi area. Also the high levels of inflation globally, the weakening of the Kenya shilling, and the rising prices of oil because of the Ukraine-Russia crisis and some of the reduction in oil production from the Middle East. I think all of these internal and external economic factors are really going to be a challenge and will really be something that the government really needs to resolve very quickly because the situation is getting out of hand.
Professor, what do you think will be the immediate and long-term political implications of this unrest?
I think the immediate implications is both of these sides will continue to challenge each other. There'll be a very dangerous game of brinkmanship. So in the short term, I can really see that the opposition will have to come to the table and talk to the government because, the opposition cannot beat the government in terms of its capacity to use the institutions of the state to keep power. The government will always have an upper hand because they have the police, they have the army, they have the government resources. But I think in the long term, I think this is something that we really need to think about. How do we create a constitutional framework so that losers of elections also feel they have a part to play in the development of the country? But also we need to create these norms, right? So that when politicians lose elections, they can gracefully leave the political stage and not feel they're being humiliated, that they can also do other positive things in our society, whether it's lecturing at the university, setting up foundations, encouraging other issues, say, around regional peace. I think, as an elder statesman like Raila Odinga would be very helpful in terms of that. For example, thinking about the problems we have in the DRC or places like Sudan. So I think in the short term, again, we really need to think about how do we reform our electoral system so losers of elections feel it's not a winner-take-all, that the government takes everything and wins and the opposition feels humiliated. But then in the long run, what do we do with our politicians who've been in politics for so long and still feel that they can contribute? Is there a space which we can create for them to also become productive? Because this politics of brinkmanship and antagonism, I think, is really hurting the country. And it's not a problem just in Kenya. I think it's an African phenomenon when we really think about our opposition parties. They haven't really thought about a way to which they can really be a loyal opposition to the government and contribute positively. It's usually a lot of antagonism, which leads to these demonstrations, which leads to loss of life and destruction of property.
That was David Monda, a political science professor at City University of New York.